Hi everyone, my name is Danny. Welcome to Danny's Corner. I am here with the third part of why I do not believe in the American dream. The second part was a little bit of a short history about three groups, although they are not the only ones who have been through tragic circumstances here in the United States. With that said, I do want to continue with what I began on my first video, which were the undocumented workers here in the United States. As I said with that video, is that a lot of those people come to the United States because they have been spoon-fed a lie. And the lie is, here in the United States, you're going to make this and you're going to make that. People that go to these Latin American countries always make the United States seem bigger than it actually is. What I mean by that is they make everything big. I'm not talking necessarily about houses or cars or anything like that, but I'm talking more money-wise, or there seems to be a lot of opportunity here and there. Now, this happens because if you've been to Latin America, it's very different from the United States. There are people that are rich. There are people that are affluent, right? You have a lot of big places. You have a lot of things that you might say, oh wow, we can only find this in the United States. There's places like that everywhere, but in comparison to the United States, there's a lot more poverty. There's a lot more insecurity. There's a lot more crime. There's a lot more of everything, something that we have not been able to imagine here in the United States, because although there is poverty in the United States, it's not that extreme. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. There are people, for example, in rural parts of any Latin American country that don't have electricity, that don't have any water, that still have to make a hole in the ground to, relieve themselves, because they don't even have a bathroom, some place private where they can do their needs, if you know what I mean. And so we take all of this for granted. We don't consider that a lot of these places don't have any good drinking water because it's polluted. And again, we say, how is that our fault? How is that our responsibility? Their government should take care of that. Well, we are in part responsible for what's happening to them. Not entirely. I'm just saying part responsible. And again, if you don't know this, it's because you have only read the history that has been fed to you by U.S. history books or from the U.S. perspective and nothing else. With this, I'm not trying to say that the United States is bad, but there's a good side and a bad side to everyone, and that includes every country as well. And so remember when the United States, back in the 1980s, started sending troops to a lot of these Latin American countries, these people were trained here in the United States. And if you don't believe me, you can do your own research. I don't have to come here and lie to you about things like these. All of these people that became dictators in one way or the other were trained here, and the people that worked for them were trained here in the United States. Also, let's not forget, too, that the United States has sent millions or billions of dollars to other countries, and other countries have mismanaged in one way or another that money. And so, yes, the United States has directly or indirectly contributed to the poverty in Latin America, has contributed to a lot of the things that are happening in Latin America. And again, you may not know this because you do not read. You do not know this because this is not taught in schools. They only teach you about the good things that the United States have done for others, but not the terrible things that the United States has done to other countries or to other people within its own country. So let's not sugarcoat U.S. history that's all been sunshine and roses, because it has not. The United States, just like any other country, has a dark past, just like each and every one of us has a dark past. And the only way that we are going to be able to move on is if we accept what we have done, not only as individuals, but collectively as well. And this is something that there's a certain group of us that do not want to accept that. A lot of us say that we want to make America great again. However, and I've stated this on other videos, America was never great to begin with. America is not great, and if we continue on this path, America will never be great. Because enable for America to be great, it has to provide a quality of life for everyone, not only for the majority, for everyone. So just because you were, I'm just going to throw a president's name, just because you found yourself in good spirits or in good health, or you found yourself to be prosperous during the Ronald Reagan years, that doesn't mean that everyone that was living in this country found themselves the same way. The same thing might go for the Clinton years, or the Trump years, or the Obama years, or the Biden years, or the Eisenhower years, or any other president for that matter. We've become, in the United States, such a tribalistic society. We stick to our tribe, and we leave those behind who are not able to keep our pace. And that has made us, I believe, in one of the most evil people. And this is coming from a blind person. So please, whenever you see people coming from one country to the other, just remember that it was the United States that started all this in one way or the other. And you think a wall is going to fix this? It's not going to fix this. Building a wall is like putting a Band-Aid on an injured leg. It's not going to help because the injured leg needs a surgery. Otherwise, it's going to be amputated. And a simple bandage is not going to do anything. Putting some ointment is not going to help. And this is what president after president has been trying to do for a very long time. They have been trying to put ointment. They've been trying to put some sort of a bandage. Weak or strong bandage, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work. The process has to be much more than just a bandage. It has to change entirely. I think I said it on one of my other videos. I can't remember which one. But these countries are going to have to work together and able to solve this problem because it's a crisis. But at the same time, the United States needs to work at its own problem that it doesn't want to fix. And yes, I'm getting to another topic here. I'm going to try to make it short. The United States accuses undocumented people of mental illness, drug addiction, crime, and everything else that goes into this country. However, you could bring, example, things into my house. Let's say junk food into my house. Lots of it. But it is my decision if I want to eat that junk food or if I don't want to eat that junk food. There is something that's called self-control that all of us should have. So thousands and if not millions of drugs could be coming in from other countries to the United States. But nobody's forcing U.S. citizens to take these things, or are they? It's just a question, something for you to ponder. The United States, a lot of people are taking these things willingly. Nobody's forcing them to anything. The other thing that we need to take into consideration is homelessness. Day after day, we have seen how much homelessness has affected Americans. And this is not because of Joe Biden. This is not because of Trump. This is not because of Obama. All of these excuses that people make are only smoke screens. This has been happening ever since the 1990s or perhaps 1980s, if not even further than that. What has happened here is that the United States has not been wanting to take responsibility for its own actions. It has let these people suffer in silence. It has not cared about them, just as I said, it has not cared for other minority groups. So please, we are our own worst enemy. Let's not blame other people for the mistakes or errors in judgment that we have done. There's nobody else to blame but ourselves. There's nobody else to blame but the people who have been in charge of leading our nation for many, many years. They have not done their job right. And we are to blame as well, because we keep on falling into the same trap. They tell us what we want to hear, and we believe them. And so here we have 4 more years of the same old thing, and nothing changes. So when are we going to wake up and say, enough is enough? When are we going to wake up and say, it's time that we stop blaming others for our problems? Today, it might be somebody from Cuba, Ecuador, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Panama, Puerto Rico, coming into this country. But I believe, as I said on one of my other videos, it could be aliens tomorrow. And what will we say then? The Martians are invading us. We can't allow this. Yes, I'm using this as an exaggeration to make a point, but I hope it does stick. We have to stop blaming others for our mistakes. Let's take charge of the things that we do. Let's not reminisce on a past that never existed, because it only existed in our imagination. Just as there was a time when we were happy, when we were carefree, supposedly, there were other people who were struggling, who were being ostracized in one way or another, who were sterilized. You guys had to go through, well, we all had to go through this horrible thing back in 2019. And most people said, when are we going to get out of this? And we were crying and we were, banging our heads and shaking our fists and throwing a temper tantrum. This is not fair. The government is doing this. I can't believe this is happening. I'm not going to wear this. I'm not going to wear that. And the sad thing is that we have forgotten that there have been people who have been ostracized their entire lives here in the United States, who have been virtually vanished from big cities, who have been not seen out on the streets, who have to deal with their own problems, who are not in prison, in a physical prison like jail, but they're in prison in their own house, bedridden because of an illness or because of some other thing. And those people, nobody thinks about them, right? Nobody thinks about homelessness until the homeless person comes to your backyard and starts making a mess, right? Where I live, I've had a few encounters with homeless people. One of them actually, unbeknownst to me, because I'm blind, perhaps had been sleeping outside of my porch for quite some time. And the only way that I found out is when the person that back then used to help me told me, hey, could you come out? There's somebody out here, and it seems like it's a homeless person. So that's what I did, and I had to tell the homeless person to move. That was private property, and he couldn't be there. He said that he would, but he never did. Finally, somebody did scare him off, and he left. But you see, and that was not the only time. There have been other homeless people that have knocked and who have asked me for a blanket or something, that have asked around. Well, I don't have anything to give. I only have what I have. And I am willing to give what I can. For example, there was another time when a homeless person asked me for a piece of bread. I just gave him the loaf of bread that I had. It wasn't an entire loaf of bread, but it was there was about, I don't know, 10 pieces at least, or 12 slices of bread, so he can have plenty for the week. So we only remember these people when they come to our doorstep, but we don't care about them when they're just outside. Anyway, I don't know what else to tell you. There are some people who are going to remain ignorant. There are some people that are going to remain with their hearts hardened as a rock. And they're not going to pay attention to this advice. They're going to keep on believing this whole thing, that it's just the undocumented workers that have made it all bad. In my last part, I want to talk about exactly what goes on in Latin America when it comes to money, and give you a little bit of an education, if you will. And if you want to see this final part, don't forget to join me for that. Thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for your comments, for your likes, for sharing my videos. It's a pleasure talking to you. It's a pleasure that I get to interact with so many people, and I can't thank you enough. Have a nice day. Bye.